Hello everybody, this is Maniac4Bricks, and welcome back to Fridays with Maniac4Bricks. This time around, I'm going to do something different as to how I set up this video. I will still be talking about my LEGO experiences and some of my opinions, but this time we're going to do it in the form of a numerical, listicle sort of thing. It's not really for clickbait, it's something that I've just wanted to talk about for a long time, and I think this might be the right time and presentation to do it. I love LEGO. To many ends. I love the good things about LEGO. I love the mediocre things about LEGO. I've collected so many kinds of LEGO things over the years. Sets, minifigures, media, all kinds of products. But even I can admit that there are some things flawed when it comes to LEGO production or history, and I can't ignore them. Just because I love something so much doesn't mean I have to say it's perfect and ignore any of the flaws that it has. In honesty, I think this actually helps me embrace it more, because I want to see LEGO improve over time. And sometimes I have actually seen it improve, and more to them. I've definitely had a bunch of things that I'll talk about in this video that have gotten better over time, and still need a little bit more work before it gets to a good point, at least in my opinion. So this is a list in no particular order of my least favorite things about LEGO. And these are things that I have experienced and are more of my personal opinion. I don't know if anyone else is going to share that in some way in the comments, but I do want to welcome the discussion to it. I feel like this is something that some people get to talk about every so often, but maybe a bit taboo for hating on LEGO. I want to be a person that can embrace when they're good, to acknowledge when they're bad, and to hope that they'll do better. So, thank you in advance for watching this video, and I welcome your feedback in the comments. Please play it nice, and let's go into the video. When it comes to LEGO, I think many of us can say that minifigures are amazing. It's always fun to play and collect LEGO minifigures in all different varieties and incorporate them into what we build, be it the actual LEGO sets or something that we create on our own. However, it's always been weird for working with things in a minifigure-like scale. A lot of times this usually leads to some interesting building techniques, and I've definitely seen people really do well with those. hqzHhB being one of the finest examples of it, for all different ways to emulate real-life objects in something close to minifigure scale. However, it doesn't always work that well when it comes to LEGO developing them. And I know there are other compromises to that, such as trying to make an affordable and efficient product. So, a lot of times we'll say, oh, this is kind of ridiculous that it's a facade because we're really not going to get much out of it. And I understand that's, from a marketing perspective, something that makes it easier for people to play with it and people to build it. I feel like for when they do actually stretch the extra mile to make something more impressive, they just need a little bit more work to make it just right. The LEGO Simpsons house, which I required recently, is probably one of the finest examples of a LEGO minifigure scale house. It's rather large when you put a minifigure next to it, but it seems pretty reasonable for how everything is spread around the house. You have a bathroom, you have multiple bedrooms, you have a kitchen, you have a living room, you even have a little bit of space in between for the foyer, for the staircase to go between floors, and there's even a fully accessible garage, which can go through the house. Mostly like walking through it, not driving the car through it. You have enough room in here to fit a pretty decent car. Like, it actually fits at least 3 minifigures comfortably inside of there. But also, you can fit the car inside of here. You can put minifigures around the car as if they're working on it or going in and out of it from driving. It's got a lot of play opportunities. It's probably the finest example of a LEGO dollhouse, even. And that's saying a lot because LEGO has done dolls in Scala and Belleville, and you could even consider LEGO Friends in that category. It's really fleshed out, but it's also really expensive. This thing has no facades. It has a couple of corners cut every so often. I mean, I would prefer like maybe a second bathroom or a little larger bathroom to make the minifigures fit well in there, but it still has enough to really put together a house. It's really well done. And I know that not every LEGO set can be that way. That's on the super extreme end of this argument. There are a couple of other LEGO sets over time that have emulated a house and are a little bit more minifigure friendly and not always that well done. I don't remember the set name off the top of my head, but it is set number 4956. This is a really impressive house. Even when you put a minifigure next to it, seems pretty proper. You even have an opening garage that, again, can lead into the rest of the house through a door, and you even have a nice porch to walk a minifigure around there. This is really good as far as building goes, but that's from the outside. If you haven't owned the set before, or other ones from this wave, or every few years of LEGO Creator, they've had something pretty common. They look really impressive on the outside, but very dull on the inside. You thought this was the second floor for a second, didn't you? Well, there's actually no room inside of here to make a floor. Everything is all for structure, and you can't use minifigures in here. How about the first floor? Sure, you could definitely put minifigures in there all over the place, but they'll have nothing to do. All the building that went into this LEGO set was for the structure. It wasn't for any of the furnishing. And I feel like it could have jumped up the cost if that was added in. I understand about that. But it's something that would have definitely helped with the value of this house. It's something that is still a good counterpart to LEGO City. Most LEGO Creator sets are good counterparts to LEGO City. But it's something that would have definitely put this at a higher mark in many people's opinions. I don't think this is one I usually see when it comes to people's favorite LEGO models. When they think of like the modulars, those are actually fleshed out. They have a lot more interior to them that you can use minifigures with. You can pose them different ways. They have different facilities in there. Some of them have built-in bathrooms. They're really well done and still use some interesting building techniques. So let's say we want to go something with a cheaper option. Something that's going to be a little bit more minifigure friendly as far as usage, but a smaller cost to it. This is one of my favorite LEGO Creator sets. I don't remember the number, but I remember the name. It's the log cabin. It looks really good and seems like a proper log cabin for a LEGO minifigure. I really like how this is done all the way around. But that's, again, just the outside of it. If I open up this section, you're not going to see any furniture at all. Only a fireplace that seems appropriate, very nice detail, but nothing else for the minifigure to do inside. Most of your play is going to be on the outside of it, unless you want the minifigure to sleep on the floor. Around this time, LEGO did develop several videos for different creator sets that encourage how you can spice up these LEGO models. It encourages that you use pieces from your own collection to add the furnishings that would go into a house like this, or even a house like we saw before. That usually is a responsibility on the consumer. And if you have the pieces, sure. But I feel like when it comes to playing with a LEGO item, you probably want to have something else for it to do. And especially when it comes to imaginative play, most of it's not really going to work here. I mean, you still have another tree that's included with the set, but it's not really going to help in the long run. Speaking of LEGO minifigure scale, how about we take a look at the vehicles? I feel like a lot of times, first of all, LEGO produces too many vehicles. And while it's something that could be easy to make, and cool to design, and relatively easy to play with because you just roll it around, or you put it in fictitious water, or sometimes real water, or you can have it fly if it's a plane, it takes away from some of the building aspect of it. For this video, I actually want to talk more about how minifigures actually work with these. It's nice to have minifigures included, but even in a set that includes 2 minifigures, maybe another animal or so, and it's roughly $20, you're not always going to get that usage. LEGO's definitely come a long way when it comes to scaling minifigures to vehicles, or vice versa, as you can see with this 1997 pizza truck. It still does the job, but looks kind of wonky by today's standards. But there are many different vehicles that LEGO has put out that don't really hold up when it comes to the play aspect with the minifigures. A couple of my favorite examples of LEGO City vehicles, and therefore sets, because mostly the sets are about the vehicles, have to do with ones that actually incorporate putting 2 minifigures inside of there. This is actually one of the smallest, and you would think, well, why is that special for a small set like this? A lot of small sets are basically sports cars. You can only fit one minifigure inside of there, with maybe a little bit of luxury cushioning. And this is something that takes the standard of Lego City building for a vehicle that size, and still allows a little bit more to play with it. Especially for a patrol car, that seems more realistic that you would have the criminal in handcuffs taken back to the station. This is something that would be pretty standard, I would imagine, but not a lot of police sets of this size do that. Normally you'll see them much bigger, they look like a giant truck, they're called the prisoner transport, and they still only fit one minifigure inside in a very cushiony way. I get that there needs to be some room in order for minifigures to be taken out and put back into these vehicles, but there is still techniques you can use and have used to make things better and make it more useful for other minifigure play. Here's another example of a set that has two minifigures in it, and you can use both of them in the same vehicle. Now this one actually does come with a trailer on the back, and theoretically you could also put a minifigure on the trailer, but if you're going to transport this thing around, 60058, you probably want to have both of them in the SUV. And you can. They'll be sitting back to back like that, one being more of a passenger seat, but that's totally okay with me. There's even a camper van that's done that, I believe a Car and Caravan or something like that, that's done it more recently. Speaking of camper vans and caravans, those have a good way of working around this. A lot of times you'll have only room for one minifigure in the front to drive it. And there'll still be a second one included for the play aspect, but you have a good way of adding that minifigure in there. They can be in the recreational area in the back. They could be sitting at a table, or in the next example, they could be lying on a bed that's in the back there. I'd say it's actually luxurious that they have room for a bed and a table in there. That's pretty darn good. And you can even use both minifigures in the back if you wanted to. That works out pretty nicely. Honestly, I think they can still do that with other vehicles. They don't have to be Winnebago types or camper van types to encourage that play feature. Here's a fire truck. And I know, we get a lot of fire trucks over the years. They're pretty much more than one every year. But this is one of my finer examples of one, 60002. This has two minifigures included in the set, and maybe a little hard to see, but you can fit both of them in there comfortably. And that makes perfect sense because if you're going to have the minifigures in an imaginary play, you want both of them reporting to the fire in the same vehicle. You're not going to have a one-man fire truck that's going to go and take care of the fire while the other guy just runs on foot. And it doesn't compromise anything else with the build either. This is a good base for it. Mostly built out of just regular plates, not even a specialized piece. And you have room for accessories here, along the sides, along the back, the winch for the hose, and you also have, of course, the ladder on top. Nothing really goes wrong with this. I'm sure there are ways to improve it, and I'm sure that it could be revised in some way, but this basic style of trying to fit two figures in there is still available. Here's an example of a recent LEGO City set from 2017. This is 60148. And this is another type of SUV, off-road vehicle, whatever you want to put it under. This is actually larger than the SUV I showed before, which, again, remember, it fits two figures in there. This one takes most of it and puts it into the bed in the back so they can hold the ATV. It's an odd compromise because you can only still fit one figure in there, and if you want the other figure to carry around, they kind of have to sit in the ATV in the back. You don't really have room for the ATVs to fit side by side or even one in front of the other for the trailer. Again, a compromise of pieces and price, but I feel like it could have still been better. Maybe there's another way for it. Maybe I'm not aware of how vehicles are working. I don't know. But these are just a handful of examples of how it's been good, and it's been not so good when it comes to fitting minifigures, especially more than one, into a vehicle. LEGO has stepped into the world of electronics for quite some time, several decades even at this point. And one of their latest ventures into it, LEGO Dimensions, was honestly a good compromise of what's been done with Toys to Life before that, and trying to still incorporate LEGO building into that. I think it was really well done from the launch to most of the waves. But I have to say it would have been better in a couple of small aspects. For one thing, I was actually surprised there wasn't a pre-order minifigure to go with this. Because a lot of LEGO video games nowadays kind of expect that. Be it from Walmart or GameStop or some other retailer, you'll get some bonus, even a polybag or a keychain at Toys R Us to go along with each of these video games. Something you could actually build or collect. But LEGO Dimensions actually didn't have any. And I really think it should have, because it was a heavy price for it originally, for $100 for the starter set, and would have been a nice payoff for those who were excited for the game and pre-ordered it, like myself. The other thing that's wrong with it is they didn't fully flesh out the game. Sure, there's plenty of licensed properties involved, especially a lot of DC ones. Are you kidding me? Like, half the game is about DC. And it kind of makes sense because it's made through Warner Brother Games, so I'm sure that that's why they had a large hand in it. And it's not just LEGO developing this game, mind you. It is Warner Brother Games and several other companies, and lots of other licenses to go with it. But one thing I find problem with is the story itself. The story is weak. I really like the idea of this interdimensional portal being spread all around by a villain known as Lord Vortek, that's trying to mesh up all of these different themes and try to obtain certain relics from them. It's kind of like a revitalization of Time Cruisers and Time Twisters, where the Time Twisters went through time travel, obviously, to multiple worlds to steal relics from each of those places. Time Cruisers would go in and try to learn about the history, but not tamper with it. When you actually beat the campaign of the game, which you can do with only the starter pack, like, you could use the other stuff too to make it easier, but even if you just have the starter pack, you can still beat the game with it. The campaign, that is. But if you beat the campaign, you will get a thing at the end that will show some little credits. Very nice. I like the homage there to Portal. But there's no explanation for the teaser at the end of it. I thought it was going to be a Second Dimensions game later on, like the way that Disney Infinity does yearly with the Toy Box 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. When the game first came out, I was really expecting there to be another LEGO Dimensions game that would delve into more themes, maybe still react to these themes, but no, you just had that. It was just a teaser for Lord Vortek maybe coming back, but not fully explained. I would like if there was some panel to talk about that with the creators and developers of the game. What was that ending supposed to mean? Maybe it just means that you could play the game over again, and because there's so much time travel and dimension travel and all kinds of physics and quantum mechanics, it could just revert itself and then just be like, okay, now we're doing it again because he's got power again. But there's nothing to really fully understand that. I could theorize about it all I want on the Brick Theorists, but I would like some definitive answers. And the third thing, and this kind of ties back to the pre-order thing, why not make a LEGO Vortek figure? Make something that's exclusive to the game other than the actual packs, especially for building things like this, and aren't tied to any licenses. And make the game more worth it. There were rumors in the third year that there was going to be a Lord Vortek pack. Something that you could use to play as the figure and interact with it in different worlds and have its own abilities and some assembly to go with it for a gadget. But that never happened. And that was a really missed opportunity, in my opinion, for finishing up the game. We knew that it was going to an end. And I know that LEGO was very shy, especially with their affiliates, to mention that publicly, but eventually they did. But it would have been nice to thank everyone for the opportunity to create LEGO Dimensions. This is a big undertaking, and would have been relatively easy to add that bit in, just to show the extra passion that was put into the video game. Lord Vortek would have been a very nice collectible, being an independent property for that game only. Not even to LEGO's own independent properties, which, let's be honest, Chima, even if people didn't like it, basically don't do anything in the game. They're not even in the campaign. I was surprised that Nexo Knights wasn't introduced in there when Nexo Knights first came out. That would have been a great opportunity to hype up that theme, but they didn't. I don't know why. It just seemed like another missed opportunity. But I feel like LEGO Dimensions could have been a little bit better than what it was. And I still have other gripes about LEGO Dimensions as far as the gameplay and glitches, as we all know, but maybe I'll talk about that in its own video at some later point. I've wanted to do a LEGO Dimensions review for quite a long time, and I haven't collected all the packs as of recording this to fully do that. There have been tons of LEGO elements over time, and even over time, some of them have improved. There have been different molds of them with better structural integrity. Even our own 2x4 bricks are better to connect with each other, even since it was created. But there have been some LEGO pieces that haven't really changed that much over time. And every time I find it in a LEGO set, I have to give it a bit of a thumbs down. But not for too long, because the rest of the set could probably make up for it. One of those sets that actually carries this piece is Benny's Spaceship, Spaceship, Spaceship. This is a set that I put high as far as my favorite LEGO sets. For so many different features, for so much aesthetic. But one thing I don't really like about it, and other sets that include it, is one piece near the canopy. It's not the canopy itself, but rather the 1x4 modified tile with 2 hinges on it. I don't know the official name for it, the element ID, or the right way to say it. But I'm sure you can find it through Bricklink, especially if you look to the inventory of this set. But you can see over time, there have been other LEGO sets that include this piece. Most of the time, they would be used as a way of opening a hatch or a canopy. And not bad. But most of the time, when I've used this piece in LEGO sets, and sometimes in LEGO MOCs, it never holds together. Even by lifting up this canopy, I've had a few times when the piece would start to detach and not really hold together with the rest of the model. There have been some times where I've opened the canopy, this would jut out, but I would actually be left with this on here. This is the side that's holding together the rest of the assembly. There's never really been a good time. This has been a little bit better compared to other ones. I remember there being a LEGO Agents set, the Deep Sea Quest, that also uses the same piece. And when you see my LEGO Agents Collectathon video, you'll probably hear me complain about this too in that video. The hatch that opens up the submarine in that set does a very similar thing. If you try to open up by just the canopy itself, the rest of it will detach. Some of it can also be from age, but I feel like that piece keeps being used every so often and doesn't really have a lot of variety to it. It always has some case that it falls off. And not that it breaks or anything, or stresses any other pieces, but it never really does its job fully. Don't give me any LEGO sets, don't show me any LEGO sets that have that piece. Of course, that's only going to encourage people to now show me sets with that piece. It'll be like the back credit card of my channel. If you guys know Nostalgia Critic, you know what I'm talking about. When it comes to LEGO City, people are on the fence as far as liking it, especially from a year-to-year basis. I know a lot of people who like LEGO City overall, and I'm kind of in that camp. There are definitely some things that I like about it, especially when it comes to the variety of sets that they offer. When it comes to Fire and Police, they can be tiresome, and I don't always pick up a certain year or a certain number of sets from those. Every so often, I'll pick up some and really high praise them in a video on YouTube. But when it comes to some themes, there are some that have just fallen into LEGO City as if there's nothing else that it can do for LEGO. Like there's no other independent property that can be made out of it. There's a couple examples of this that I can think of, but I feel like there are some that could actually work this way, and maybe integrate with ones that are currently going on, just maybe at a later time. This is probably my biggest example when it comes to a LEGO set, or a LEGO theme rather, falling into LEGO City. Pharaoh's Quest is just the poster boy right now for LEGO Adventurers, or just exploration themes in general. That could be underwater, that can be in the desert, it could be in the jungle, and you're probably going to hear something similar. Desert. Not really. Jungle. Yeah, I think we had some LEGO Jungle recently. Divers. Yeah, I've seen that a few times. You've seen those through LEGO City. And they used to have their own properties to them. It used to be its own world. It used to be its own story. And it used to have individual characters to them. Johnny Thunder. Not sad. Johnny Thunder itself pretty much pioneered the adventurers and explorers type of genre for the desert, for the jungle, for the Himalayas, for China. It's really good for that. But you don't really have that anymore. It's kind of tossed to the side, and last year it was cool to see Jungle return. But there was no depth to it. Even though it has shrines, even though it has treasures, even though it has unique environments you build in those sets, there was it. There was no reason for it. It was just people going out to find treasure. You had nothing to connect with those people. Even in the animations for them, I don't think kids would have really adapted to them. Maybe it gives them some room to make up their own stories, or how these civilizations existed in the jungle theme, but to me, it feels like a letdown. Especially when LEGO is poor on IPs right now. Ninjago being the main one, Bionicle, Nexo Knights, and Legends of Chima recently being cancelled over the past couple years, and nothing else has really risen up. LEGO Dimensions before could have kind of been an IP, with the idea of interdimensional travel, even though it's through other licenses. Like I said, it's like Time Cruisers. It incorporated other themes to it. But Jungle could have been a little bit better if it had some character to it. That's one of the things I remember Nick on Planet Ripple talking about on his YouTube channel as far as what's different between Rock Raiders and Power Miners. And I actually agree with this opinion. Rock Raiders doesn't really go well as far as building. They're very rustic. They're very ugly looking. The color scheme just doesn't seem to fit nowadays. For its time, it was actually pretty interesting. And it almost had that to back up because it had a story. It had travel to another world. It had exploring unnatural planets. It was really something that could build up the structure of that theme. The characters were diverse. You could recognize any of them in an instant. Power Miners had a little bit of story to it that really didn't carry far and didn't have a proper conclusion. It had better looking vehicles, more uniform, more bright. I like the way the orange signifies the play features for most of them. But none of the characters really had anything to them. They had a little bit of expression, they did have double-sided faces, but you don't have anything to do with them. You don't understand what does what. Except for maybe Chief being, well, the Chief, being the leader. But there's multiple minifigures named Duke. And they're all of different faces. Kinda lazy. Nowadays, you don't even have Power Miners. You don't have an original theme with rock monsters or exploring a different world with drilling equipment. You just have miners. Faceless miners. I mean, they do have faces, but you're not going to really identify with any of these characters. And Ninjago really delves on identifying with their characters. Even if it's a few of them being main ones, you still get it. Here's a theme I think could do better with inclusion in LEGO City. LEGO Sports. It'd be very difficult to adapt what LEGO Sports did in 2002 and such into a modern LEGO City standard for sets. With these, they had a lot of specialized pieces that made it more of a tabletop game. And you still had minifigures in there, and you still had things to build, and you still had arenas you can put together. This also goes for not just basketball, but also soccer, and for a brief period, hockey. But most of it was just for this tabletop play that doesn't really pop up that much for LEGO. And I think if you work with it a little bit with different play features and building techniques that LEGO has done over time, you could probably bring this back in some way. And not just have collectible minifigures scattered across the cosmos with one football player ever, a German football team, Team GB, 2 baseball figures. I don't think there was even a basketball collectible minifigure. For all the repeats that they have, why not put that one in? Not even a specific team. Just a generic basketball player. Or even just the basketball itself. A couple different soccer ones have come up. And even sports, including winter sports like, well, I mentioned before hockey, but also snowboarding. Or even skateboarding was also from the sports theme. You have a little bit of skateboarding nowadays, but it's mostly just a small piece in a set that doesn't have to do with skateboarding. Most of it is just going to have other things, and that's just part of someone's personality with no name. I think it could be better. I think there could be more to it if you add sports into the LEGO lineup for a city. I'd say LEGO Friends would also be a good addition to LEGO City. I think the sets by themselves, if you tweak them a bit, and if you're not a fan of the pastel colors that are used, which honestly I like, because we at least have those colors, this could be good to add on to LEGO City. One of the reasons why I highly support LEGO Friends, even though I don't buy a lot of sets, but I still like buying sets from LEGO Friends, is because of the concepts. There are concepts that LEGO Friends has offered, and not all feminine, that bring more to LEGO building. They're not your average ordinary gas station, or a half-built house, or a fire station. You have a playground! This one actually was from a contest winner. A young child developed a set that became part of LEGO Friends. Obviously not building the exact set, but I'm sure it was adapted the way that Ideas has been adapting LEGO fan models into sets. But still, have you ever heard of a LEGO playground that wasn't Friends? Have you heard of a LEGO pool that wasn't Friends? Have you heard of a LEGO hotel? Maybe once or twice, but not that often. Have you ever heard of a LEGO school? A LEGO school! This is for kids! Why not have a LEGO school? A LEGO City school. That's fine. It could work. And Friends has now done it twice. I believe. Could be wrong on that. They definitely did a high school. I think it did another something or other school. They've done micro versions of schools, but not ones a minifigure used or compatible. LEGO Friends has a couple of ideas that get passed around every so often, including sports. They have soccer. They've even had basketball. But LEGO Friends has, and snowboarding, and skateboarding. But LEGO Friends has concepts that LEGO City never uses. So what about, in the years that LEGO Friends doesn't have those concepts, or it's a while since they've been adapted, like a hospital, LEGO City, get hospitals regularly. I'd be happier with fire and police and hospitals. Or ambulances. More than just one vehicle a year. And at least this year we are getting more of it. But, a LEGO Friends idea. Retire it for a few years. Bring it back as a city thing. And the same thing can happen vice versa. You can bring a LEGO City idea and bring it later to LEGO Friends. That kind of already happened. Even though I complained about LEGO Jungle before for City, there was a jungle sub-theme for Friends a couple years ago. It was more of an animal rescue, but it still had a lot of jungle aesthetic to it. So, I welcome that. And I think it could be done much more. The next example I have here is something that never really escaped City. And I feel like it could, and maybe even kinda does, but it's very peculiar to me. And that's probably one reason why I like going back and trying to collect some of them. LEGO Arctic has always been tied in some way to LEGO Town and City. This is the original Arctic. And even though it doesn't have anything that constitutes LEGO Town as far as standards of building, or certain models, or certain figures, and it had a lot of original figures and prints, it's still kind of tied in the category of Town. Even after that, once or twice it was revived, and it was just another LEGO City theme that was released in the summer, and yeah, didn't really have a lot of diversity, had a little bit more standards to LEGO vehicles that were in City, still had some diversity for vehicles, and bases even sometimes, but why not branch it out to something else? Outside of this, there really hasn't really been an Arctic IP. I could think of LEGO World Racers having some Arctic stuff, but that was only for 1 or 2 sets. It wasn't really about it. It was about World Racers going around the world, and some of the vehicles were equipped for different terrain. I think there could be a LEGO theme based in the Arctic. Doesn't have to be city related. I actually thought the teasers for LEGO Chima, when they were just a blue crystal, I thought that was actually going to be this. Some kind of Arctic IP. But I was obviously wrong, and that was many years ago. Don't criticize me for something that I thought many years ago. So I feel like when it comes to LEGO City, it needs to be mixed up a bit. Take some things out of LEGO City and make them independent. Make them with a story. Make kids encouraged to play with them and adapt to the minifigures as characters. Some things can be brought into City, so you can have more diversity every year, every summer sub-theme. And even with LEGO Friends, you can mix around those ideas. I don't expect them to make a nail salon or a veterinarian or a stable that often, Although they have had Lego Barn before, so you know people want that back. But they could definitely shuffle those ideas more frequently with Lego Friends. Instead of having, like I said, a farm theme that was from like 2009, almost 10 years ago, and not much in between. Maybe like a collectible minifigure. Woohoo. And last but not least, you saw this one coming. Lego does not show a lot of respect or homage to their heritage. Now, I do think that they do. Especially with this year, there's plenty of 60th anniversary opportunities. I've picked up one of the smaller Building Better Thinking sets, and there is a respectable 2x4 tile in there showing their icon of 60 years of the Lego brick. There's even the set of the same name that is a promotional through Lego Shop at Home, and is a really good way of using newer building techniques and pieces to emulate older Lego models. But I feel like there's some added personality and touch that could go into some of these promotions and even these regular sets that could have done a little bit more. It's just going the extra mile to really show something special to Lego fans of any age. I know that a lot of this is going to be just, it sounds like nostalgia pandering, but it's something that any Lego fan would appreciate if there was a little added detail. The Walmart anniversary sets, yeah, we're going in with that argument. The Walmart anniversary sets are a bit of a wash. They were overpriced for what they were supposed to be. Most of the price was going towards having a collectible box, which looks nice. I like the way it was done. Down to the photography for the set really emulates how it was done back in the 60s. The way the buildings were done for the house, the truck, and the cottage seems respectable for that age. But the $20 price point for each of those sets, because there was a limited run of them, is what irks me. As well as the classic police minifigure in the upcoming collectible minifigure series, celebrating 40 years of the minifigure, only limited to 1 per box. I feel like, yes, there was a big element of collectibles and investors and adult fans when it comes to celebrating Lego's history. But I feel like if Lego's going to make a big deal about it with all different kinds of products and opportunities throughout the years, why not have it more available for Lego fans and make them, even if they're not from those ages or demographics, be more intrigued by it? I have the original version of that classic policeman. In the event, I don't get the one from the collectible minifigure series. It's going to be the new Mr. Gold, unfortunately. Although not as rare, it's still going to be something people are going to tug at each other to try to get. One of my favorite opportunities that Lego has celebrated its history was actually with a short wave of VIP sets. And I have talked about this a little bit beforehand. I have only 2014 and 2015, but there was a third one, 2016, that was castle related. And this is really cool. It's a small promotional item that when you buy $100 of Lego at the time of their releases, this is something you could obtain for free. And it's really good. And by nowadays, you can kind of get it for $15 or so in resale. But I digress. I really like how the box is done, where it's very classy. It's very much like the older style of Lego boxes from those 50s and 60s. And what's even better about it is the contents. I have the classic space one here. Very simple on parts. But it really gets the classic space feel. The way that it's built. It's a lot like the Walmart sets where they really go through revamping it a bit, but also making it emulate the time period appropriately. You can definitely see that with the little robot that's done here. Almost the same kind of pieces that would be used almost 40 years ago now. But there's something more to it inside of this box, as well as the nice tray to go with it, also emulating older Lego sets having trays, that adds to that personality. And this is the thing that I was hoping for when it came to the Walmart sets, and why I feel great not spending the $60 initially to purchase them. Am I going to purchase them in the future? I don't know. But for right now, I'll just try to rebuild the models for my own collection. And I know other people agree with me, there's better value in those than the actual Walmart ones. But this is what makes it special. And it's actually backwards, but this is what makes it special. It's a short instruction booklet, sure. Only takes a few pages for that. You could have easily made that as a polybag, fold-out instruction manual. Sound familiar? Well, here's the thing that makes it a little bit better. Even though it's a couple of pages for this entire booklet, they go through the history of the theme they're talking about. For this one being space, the other one being pirates, and the other one being castle. They go through the evolution of LEGO sets, iconic and not so iconic, just to show how they've developed over time. Again, it could be nostalgia pandering to some, because plenty of people grew up with these sets. I know I grew up somewhere in this range onward. Actually, probably more like this range onward. But this is still something that people would enjoy. And for newer LEGO fans that didn't grow up with a lot of these things, it would have been really cool to see how they've come so far. That they weren't always the standard you see for many years. And the minifigures, that's just nice in the back on its own. I know that for the Walmart sets that wouldn't really happen since they don't have minifigures and aren't supposed to be representing minifigures. But you have 3 concepts that could have easily been done in that booklet style. You have a house. How many LEGO houses have been made over the years? Tons of them! All different themes for houses. All different styles of houses. All different color schemes and all different layouts for houses. City, Simpsons, I talked about a bunch of them earlier in this video. You have a truck. You know LEGO is no short on LEGO vehicles. So there's easily a way that you could have incorporated those things into those Walmart promotionals. It would have added extra flavor and extra depth to those promotions. Particularly, I know that the 50 years of the LEGO train set did some of that, where it actually listed each of the trains that it was emulating, and went through a bit of its history and the iconic features of it. What happened to that? Is that something only for LEGO employees to enjoy? The history of LEGO, which some of them probably actually know it, being there for a while, or just being in the LEGO group as an employee. So I feel like for consumers, it would have been a lot better if there was a little bit added history. Even a visual one that could spice things up and make it more enjoyable for fans to really realize how far LEGO has come and how far they're going to go. So thank you for watching this video. I know it was incredibly long, but I feel like I talked about everything in just the right way that I wanted to. I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I did not try to make this video long to get more watch minutes. I just wanted to express everything in the time frame I wanted to. Even though I'm sure a lot of people are going to be skipping this video because of its extreme length. But there's so many different topics in here that could be talked about in the LEGO community, and only talked about every so often because it's a taboo subject to say things aren't great with LEGO. People want to say everything is awesome. No pun intended. So I'm looking forward to your discussion in the comments down below. I'll be happy to join you. Heck, we could even do it as a live stream if it makes you feel any better. And you know that's going to be a little bit longer, but it'll still be something I can engage with everyone in an easy way. We'll see you next time with more LEGO videos. Here's to 60 years of LEGO. I know they're improving. They still have some way to go, but I'm really looking forward to it.